And your WBEV news time is 12:32. If you're staring at your digital, it is time for today's community comment. We go to the Daily Dodge TV Center, and here is Justin Wilski.
And welcome into today's community comment. I am Justin the Ninja Wilski here with Assembly District 37 incumbent Representative Mark Bourne. Mark, how are you doing today?
Good to be here. Good to be on my, I think my first community comment with you now. Certainly not my first community comment, but
right,
you're not first one with you.
Not unfamiliar to community comment, although unfamiliar to me as a host and unfamiliar to the new studios.
Yes, very nice. I've been in a variety of studios now. With watched the tables change over the years in the other one, and the change in this one now with the new layout. Very nice. So good to be here.
It's a bit of a dramatic change, but that's not to say that change isn't a good thing. But also sometimes it's nice to know about the familiar. And although some of our listeners and viewers might be familiar with who you are, why don't you go ahead and take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and your political history with the area.
Sure, yeah. So born and raised here in Beaver Dam. My wife and I are raising our daughter here and trying to train a new puppy also right now. So that's a new experience we haven't had in the house for a while. And worked at the Sheriff's Department before I got into the legislature for 15 years in the jail division. And I've been very involved in the community, was on city council here in Beaver Dam, have been on boards of a variety of organizations, and got in the legislature now 6 terms ago, representing the area. With the new maps, things have shifted a little bit, picked up some new area in southern Fond du Lac County, but still represent a lot of northern Dodge County as I have for a while. I've served on a variety of committees in the legislature. Last 4 budgets have been on the Joint Committee on Finance, which is the budget committee. Spent the last 2 sessions as co-chair, the assembly co-chair of that committee. So, a variety of experience and opportunities to work with folks on a local level as well as statewide initiatives. And certainly had a lot of opportunity over those years to talk about those things here on Community Comment as well as in other venues throughout the district. But it's been a real honor to represent the community that I grew up in and the area that I grew up in, and certainly having enjoyed the last couple months talking to voters both in the current district as well as the new area about what we've accomplished together and what things are left to work on.
I'll say with that change, you mentioned you said about 40% difference in the district now, or 40% new to you.
Right.
So you've had to have a lot of feet on the ground.
Yeah, certainly been out talking to voters, going door to door, going to events, spending a lot more time in Waupun and Oakfield and in the Fond du Lac County area, as well as some new parts of Dodge County like Randolph and Fox Lake. But it's been great, and certainly have a lot of familiarity with those areas already. Growing up in Beaver Dam, we've certainly went to things in Waupun. There's places where I do business in Waupun and have for years, and such like that. So, but it's been good, and I find as you're out talking to voters, a lot of the things for small businesses, farms, families, there's not a whole lot of difference 10 miles away. It's a lot of the same things that folks are concerned about, a lot of the same goals we've been working on and are continuing to work on.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our first question then, because it does address some things that people might be concerned about. The question is, how can Wisconsin address workforce challenges both in the public and private sectors?
We've done a fair amount here already, and there's certainly been some improvement. There's still more work to be done. It seems like there always is in these challenging issues. But we've done a lot in the last 2 budgets to invest in our partnerships with the technical college system and apprenticeships and things like that. This community's been great too in focusing on that stuff. And so there's certainly been some improvement there. In some ways, unfortunately, the economy and inflation being so bad right now has been slowing down some places, and we've seen some layoffs and reductions, which then I guess it's a negative thing, but it also addresses some of the workforce challenges because some of the places that we're hiring are not hiring, and they're slowing down now and backing that off a little bit and then getting some folks into some other jobs. So in some ways, the economic changes are correcting some of the workforce shortage. And then, of course, some of it is just an overall population shift. More folks are retiring. There aren't as many folks to replace them. And so we need to be more competitive in the Midwest with tax policy and things to get families to move here and take some of these jobs and realize that Wisconsin's a great place to live, work, raise a family. And some of it, we need some leadership from the federal government. We really haven't seen it really with either side in power on having a good, robust, legal immigration policy. It has to be legal. You come here to work and come through the system. But, that's something that this nation has a lot of history in, and it can help us now with some of this population shortage for workforce as well. But from a state perspective, the things that we can be working on, I think we've had some success, and I think you'll continue to see those type of partnerships.
Now, you mentioned earlier that obviously you've been doing this for a while. Yes, the district may be changing with the maps being redrawn, but you've been in politics, local politics, or state politics level for a bit. Why do you continue to run? Why do you continue to feel that drive?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. First of all, it's definitely an honor to represent the communities that I grew up in, and I don't ever forget that. I appreciate the folks that I've been able to work with on local issues and local accomplishments and the stuff we've been able to do. And so every 2 years you look at it, and that's the way the job is. It's a 2-year term. Do I reapply? Do I still have things to offer and the drive to do that work? And for this 2-year term, obviously I decided I do, and I wish to. And so, I'm reapplying with folks. And so we look at on the campaign trail what we've accomplished and what we have left to do. And I think I've got a solid record of representing this area well. And working with groups like the Lake Improvement Association in the Lake District. I was just at the Lake District meeting. Was that last weekend or the weekend before? All the days are blurring together. I think it was last Saturday, and they were updating folks, members of the district, on what they've been able to accomplish. And I was part of that presentation. They flat out said, Mark works with us. He's been helping us with the DNR. I got the DNR to sit down with the group and work through some of the issues they've been having with the carp removal, and they've got a thing moving forward now. And that's great to work with folks that are doing important things here in the area, and also great to be able to help accomplish something. They were really stalled with the DNR, and we got things moving. And I remember here a couple of weeks ago, the Watertown mayor was on talking about a really complex project that you guys covered in your news then that they've got going on in their downtown with the bridge repair. And a historic building was built into the bridge, and DOT wasn't sure what to do with it, and where the bridge was falling into the river. Really needed work. It was a mess. The mayor was really concerned about it, and rightfully so, and Senator Jagler reached out to me, and so we started working on it, and my office worked with DOT in the last budget, got the funding, figured out what needed to be done, and got that going. And it was great to hear her update that's moving along well. And that's not even part of my district, but it's a neighbor, it's not far away, and it was a really complex issue that we could help with. And so those type of things are really great opportunities. And then it's the big things in the budget where you have statewide impact, but also local impact, like the historic changes we made to shared revenue in this last budget, to not just put more money into it for local governments, but to change the formula so it was more focused on rural areas and all the money wasn't just going to the big cities, because our towns, our villages, our smaller cities have the same challenges with having to fund public safety and things like that. And we needed to, make a better commitment to that. And so, that was something that we worked out, bipartisan way. It had to be that way, or the governor wasn't going to support it. And it was a historic change, the largest increase, and then also the redistribution to focus more on the rural areas. And so when you have an opportunity to work on stuff like that, it kind of invigorates you to keep finding things to work on that can help improve this district and the state.
Wonderful. Now, it looks like Jeff's telling me that we do have a call on the line, so we're going to go ahead and go to the phones. Hello, caller.
Good afternoon. Good luck, Mark. I'm sure you'll be reelected.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could just make a comment or two about the 2 questions that will be on the ballot, where you respond yes or no.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so there's two constitutional questions, amendments on this ballot, and the legislature put them on there because right now there's a lot of federal funding that's come in the last 4 years to the state with the COVID legislation and the federal government that the governors had sole control over, and that's not the normal system on how funds are spent. If you think back to your civics class, some of us it's longer ago than others, but in our both our federal and state system, the legislature usually has what they call the power of the purse. They're supposed to be making the spending decisions, and then the executive branch is executing those things, and the courts review them to make sure that they're properly done. So in the case of this federal money, the governor had sole control over it, and that's not a normal way that money should flow through a state. So the amendments will require that future federal funds and other maybe unknown funds, that they all flow through the legislature through the normal process. There's been a lot of lies put out there on this as to what this does or doesn't do, and really that's really what they're about. Is about making sure that the legislature has the oversight of these funds. The governor still will be involved because, of course, to spend funds, it requires legislation that passes the legislature and then gets signed by the governor. And so if he doesn't like it, he can veto it. That's certainly within his power. But it requires that partnership and the role of the people's representatives in the legislature to handle that spending, because it's been a lot of money that's flowed through, and really we could have done a much better job as a state if we would have been able to work with it through a normal budget process and really roll it into the state funds and make sure that we're not double spending in areas or being the most effective with all of the resources to help the state. So voting yes will make it so that the legislature would have a role in those things, as really our system is set up to do.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned funding, so I guess we'll lead right into the next question. What is your particular commitment to funding schools and school aid?
Well, I've got a record on this of, every session since I've been in the legislature, we've invested in education. It's important to our future. There's a constitutional responsibility there. It's the future of our state, the future of our workforce. But there's a few things, that we've been trying to improve on, and we've made major investments in public education. And we are blessed to have some really good public schools in this district. Unfortunately, not the entire state is that way when it comes to some of the school systems, and they're not as successful with our kids. But another part of that is making sure that families have choices. And, in this budget, we did the largest increase in funding in school choice program since the program's been created. And that's important. It's important for families to have options to figure out what's best for them and their kids. And sometimes that's the public school. Sometimes that might be a private school. But whatever we can do to empower parents to be more involved in their kids' education and make the choices that are best for them, I think is really the key to success for future education here in Wisconsin. And so we're going to continue to advocate for those things. I've certainly had an opportunity to spend a lot of time at both public and private schools in this district. We're blessed to have a lot of good ones, and we're going to continue to support that investment.
Moving on, the next question has to deal with the need to cooperate, obviously, between the different branches of the government. How do you plan on working with the current Democratic governor, Tony Evers?
Going to do the same thing I've been doing, which is when we can find ways to work with him, like the historic changes to shared revenue that I talked about earlier, we'll do that. We'll work with him. We'll work out a deal. Education actually is another example of that. We probably spent a little bit more on the public side of education than some of us were comfortable with in this budget, but that's because it was a compromise with the governor to get that major investment that I talked about in the voucher program into the private schools, so that families have that choice, because they both were important. So we worked out an agreement on those things, and those are good things for Wisconsin. Those are great things for the district, and so I'll work with them on those things when I can. Actually, the lake thing I talked about earlier is another thing that I'm working with him on. I got the DNR to sit down with the Lake Association and start that process. The governor came to Beaver Dam, toured with the Lake Association, saw what they were talking about. Had some concerns that maybe the DNR weren't working with them as well as they could. He asked to talk to me about that issue. So I met with him. We were together in Fox Lake for an event, on a stewardship grant over there. And afterwards we had a conversation, talked about how we could work together with the Lake Association and the DNR to get this thing moving. And now we've got, like I said, a pilot program that they're working on. So that's another thing where if you can work with them, I'll work with them. But when it's wrong, when it's not right for the district, when there's issues that are just philosophical disagreements, whether it's a Republican versus Democrat thing or just things that I just know that this district and the common sense conservative values of this district don't support, then heck no, not going to work with them. And that's my job, to let them know, here's what's important to my district. This is the stuff we can work on. We've accomplished some great things together in bipartisan ways in the legislature with both the legislature and the governor. But there's some things that, no, we're going to take a stand on. This doesn't reflect the values of my district, and then we're not going to work together on that.
As a follow-up to that, do you find that the individual voters within your district reach out to you on a regular basis to let you know their feelings on these topics?
Depends on the issue, but yeah, we do. We do some surveys. We get constituent contacts. I spend my time working throughout the district, speaking at groups and coming on community comment. When it's not election season, then I'm on here monthly, and we take calls and things. And but some of it too is just to keep a pulse, on the district and to know what the values of the district are. And I'm very clear about that every election. That I'm going to continue to promote the common sense conservative values of this district in Madison, and I think my record reflects that. I think the voters know that, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Now, you mentioned coming on community comment, which we always thank you for doing because we love to make sure people are informed of things. We have recently had members of some child care service groups that have been on
Sure.
and have talked to us about some issues with having child care availability and things related to that. Do you feel that there needs to be more state support for child care services throughout the state?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is an issue that I've worked on for a while, had some success with it early in my legislative time, with getting some increases into the SHARES program that supports child care for families that need a little help with it here in Wisconsin. And this session alone, we passed several bills. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed them all. But we passed several different things to help with access, with training teachers, with financial support for the training of the teachers in the child care centers, with capital costs for child care centers. There were a variety of them. I've talked actually in detail with them on community comment here probably about a year ago when we were working on those things. And unfortunately, the governor vetoed them all because he just believes that there's only one way to help child care, and that's to create a new government program that funds a significant portion of it. That's what he's been advocating for. That's what he had in his budget. The legislature said, no, we're not going to create a new government program. We have all these programs already in place that can support these things. Let's lift them up. So that's been an area of disagreement with the governor, and it's unfortunate because it's a sector that could use some help, and it has a role in workforce, certainly, and it's something that I've talked with folks about in the district a lot, especially younger couples that have young kids that are going through that right now with funding childcare, and so we'll continue to push for ways to improve that, and hopefully in the next budget discussions will go better with the governor.
Moving on to another thing that is a cost concern for many people. Let's talk a little bit about healthcare costs. What do you feel that the governor and state legislature should do to help control healthcare costs?
Yeah, we've done a variety of things to try to help with both costs and access to the high quality care here in Wisconsin. This is another one of those things where unfortunately a lot of it's driven by federal stuff, federal policies, Center for Medicaid, and setting a lot of standards and things that require extra costs. And but from a state perspective, we've tried to help with driving down the cost of insurance by investing in some reinsurance that helps lower the cost on the exchange for folks that are buying in Wisconsin. We have invested a lot more into our Medicaid program, which is our state welfare program. It's something that we're required to have by the federal government. And the reimbursement rates are really low. It doesn't cover the cost of work in our skilled nursing and hospital facilities, doctors' facilities. And so we've been trying to increase those last few budget, because when the state is short paying those, that gets passed on to the rest of us in our commercial insurance and private pay and stuff, because they have to make up the cost somewhere. And so then it pushes the rates up on the rest of us. And so, we've come a long way in the last couple of budgets of increasing those investments. And so that's, we're heading in the right direction and hopefully providing some relief to the system. But it's something that's complicated for a state to have a major role in it, because so much of it's driven by national policy and national insurance policies and things like that. But we'll keep looking for ways to find partnerships that will continue to provide high quality care, certainly, which is what we have here in Wisconsin. We're certainly blessed with that. But better access and more affordability to it is always a constant goal.
Pivoting now to a whole different topic. Newly into your area is the Waupun area, and we know that recently Waupun Correctional has been in the news, and you having some experience with Dodge County Sheriff's Office and the jail specifically, and how that works. Do you feel as though Waupun Correctional needs to be replaced, or do state funds need to be utilized to help improve the overall use and safety and utilization of the building?
I think several things on that topic. First of all, corrections is a tough job. It's not for everyone. We're blessed to have a lot of good folks doing a good job working in our correctional facilities here in Wisconsin. And the Waupun one in particular, Waupun Correctional, or the Walls as it's sometimes lovingly referred to, has a lot of challenges both with staffing levels and the older design of the building, and what challenges that brings to running a modern day correctional facility. It's also the Walls, along with our Green Bay facility, are the two oldest prisons, are by far most expensive to run because of that age. And so the state's constantly looking at that. This governor has not been willing to make replacements as far as capital investments of that type in the prisons, but it's always part of the discussion as to how can we make it safer and more affordable to run it. And so I think that's going to continue to be part of the discussion. It's not something that happens in a year or two. You don't build a new state-of-the-art prison and close or modify prisons in a year or two. It's a decade or decades type of discussion. I think the things that I've learned about Waupun, now that I have had the opportunity to represent that area, is that they're very proud of their prisons, their history of it, and it's a major part of their utilities. And so I've certainly made the promise at the council meeting here a few weeks ago, and to the mayor and the administrator, and actually to the utility director today when I met with him, that any discussions about the future of WCI have to include Waupun and the needs of Waupun. So whether that's renovating that prison, if that's something that's even feasible affordability wise, or there's a lot of state land that's already owned in Waupun. If it means, I think a great opportunity could be building a new state-of-the-art prison in Waupun. Still going to have to figure out what to do with that property in the heart of the city. But I think there's both opportunities for the Department of Corrections to improve our facilities and make them safer for the staff to work there, and for the folks that are incarcerated there, and ultimately cheaper to run, and still make sure that Waupun is taken care of as well.
Now, looking at the government as a whole, do you believe there's a way in which the state legislature itself operates overall? Do you feel it's in need of any reforms to make it more open, transparent, accountable, or efficient?
Well, there was a lot of area there. I mean, not really. I mean, there's always minor tweaks and stuff, but it's very public facing, public records. We certainly do a lot to push information out. We do a lot to bring information in. I think it's as far as a representative form of government works, functions fairly well that way. I mean, are there, national things that have filtered down into the state and even the local level with the hyperpartisanship and stuff that sometimes make it hard to work together? Sure. But that's not like a reform of the system. That's just more like the way the times are, and the pendulum always swings on that stuff. I know my opponent has talked a fair amount about campaign finance, and seems to have concerns with that, which I found, quite frankly, odd in some ways. The assembly races are completely published information on what kind of things, donations are coming into our campaigns. There's already strict limits on it. You can't take more than $1,000 in an entire election cycle, which is 2 years from any individual or organization. And so certainly while, campaigns are expensive and signs and radio ads and print ads and stuff all cost money, and we have to raise those resources. It's already limited. And the idea that, me or anyone else is going to be selling their soul for $1,000 contribution just sounds ridiculous to me, really. I mean, I think it's just silly. And those type of accusations really have no place in this campaign. And I think it also just goes against the facts of what we've been talking about already, with all of the things that I've been working on at a local level. To say that somehow I'm bought by corporate or something like that. I mean, just, go to my website and look at the endorsements of mayors and town chairmen and county board members. And that's because they know that I work with them, that I work with this district, because that's my job. And it's just ridiculous to think that someone's going to, just throw away their reputation for $1,000 contribution. It's just nonsense.
So we are nearing the end of the program, unfortunately, and I actually only have one question left, so to speak. Right. I guess I'll ask you to, one, give your closing statements to our listeners and our watchers out there on Daily Dodge TV, but then also answer the question as to why voters should make sure that they're putting your name on their ballot, that they're marking for Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I can kind of roll that together. Really, it's as simple as what we've been talking about here. It's an incredible honor to represent these communities. I don't take that lightly. I work hard and take that responsibility seriously. And from my very first campaign and every 2 years after that, I've always said the same stuff. I'm going to take the common sense conservative values of this district to Madison, and it's easy to campaign on that because I can look at the record and show folks that's exactly what I've done. And so what you're getting with me, regardless of what lies you're being told by other people or other campaign rhetoric or things like that. It's pretty straight-laced. I tell the truth. I work hard for you. I work with our communities to make both Wisconsin and the 37th Assembly District a better place to live, work, raise a family, and retire. We've been working more on retirement stuff recently with tax cuts for retirees that the governor vetoed. And so that it's as simple as that. Folks know what they get, and it's been an honor to represent, and I ask for your vote on next Tuesday, the 13th, for 2 more years of serving you in the Wisconsin State Legislature.
Mark, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today. And, of course, last week we sat down with the challenger, your opponent, Steve Wojcicki, both of you running for representing the Assembly District 37 here in the state of Wisconsin, again, August 17th. You said was the date?
August 13th.
Or August 13th, my bad. Sorry.
Next Tuesday. Yep.
Next Tuesday, don't get it wrong. Yeah. August 13th will be the date for voting on that. So again, thank you for taking the time to come in and see us.
Good to be here as always. Look forward to continuing more conversations here on Community Comment.
Thank you so much. And that will do it for today's Community Comment.